celebrating 16 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Hallerin Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Governor Bill Haslam, Part 1.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. This is Governor Haslam. I'm calling this the exit interview. Thank you for being here, and I'm glad to have you here, and I'm glad to have you as a friend as well. This is it.
Yeah, I'm down to last months of being in office, and really after, I think of it as a 15-year chunk of my life, being mayor for 7 and governor for 8. That I know this sounds sappy, but I will always count as a huge privilege. It is a big honor to get to be in a leadership position in a public role. And while I don't think I'll have another public role, I will always miss having the chance to do this because I think that much of it.
So you don't think you'll have another public role?
I don't know. I never thought I would do this,
right.
But I don't see one. Like I don't see going to Washington. But even saying that makes me a little sad because I've loved this opportunity so much. It really does matter who we elect. And I thought that before, and I think that in spades now.
When you wrote that article about faith in
right.
practice in governing,
right.
your review was tremendous because of the insights you shared. And you said one thing in there. You said, when I went into the job, I thought, I'm going to be CEO of the state.
Right.
You've been a high-level executive for years.
Right.
And you said, it ended up feeling like I was senior pastor.
Yeah.
Can we start there?
Yeah, so one of the conflicts you always have is, it's not a conflict between choosing good things and bad things. You know, should we put more money into, this really good program or that bad one? If you're the pastor, it's like people saying, we need to put more money into our high school ministry. No, we need to send more overseas. No, we need to put more into our seniors program. And all those things are great, right? But you're limited resources, you have to decide. It's the same thing in government. When a mayor, should we spend more money on sidewalks? Sure. Should we pay our police officers more? Sure. Should we have better athletic fields around the city? Sure. Do you want to pay more taxes? No. And that's, as governor, it's that, again, should we pay teachers more? Should we pay prison guards more? And I can keep going. Do you want to pay more taxes? No. And so it's about deciding between competing good things. That's one way it's like that. The other way is this. I think at the end of the day, what surprised me about these roles is just something you would have said, well, I knew that. That in the end of the day, it's all about you get the relationships right, most other things tend to work out.
Talk about that more.
Well, one thing is governor, you're the governor, you're not the king, right? So you have a legislature to work with, and you have appointed constitutional officers who don't work for you, and you have citizens, some of whom think they're far away over here on the right end of the scale, and they have a really clear picture of what's wrong with America, and some way over here on the left end of the scale, and they have a clear picture of what's wrong with America. Your job is to be governor of all those folks. If I'm an elected representative from a district, I really just have to kind of model what my district says. But as governor, you realize people look at things really different in this urban core of one of our major cities than they might in a rural area and a suburban area. And so your job is to bring all that together. And there's things that only the governor can do, and that's why there's things that only the senior pastor of a church can do. And that's why it kind of felt like that role to me.
How did you figure out what were the things that only you could do?
It's a great question. So my predecessor, Governor Phil Bredesen, when in between the time I was elected and the time I went into office, I did what you would do. I went down and sat and talked to the guy who was doing the job I am. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, the governor should only do what only the governor can do. And so sometimes that's recruiting businesses. I've learned that whether it's in Chicago or Shanghai or Brussels, if the governor sits across the table from that CEO, it's impactful. I've learned on leading that the executive branch is designed to lead government. The legislative branch is designed to respond. Now, not always. There's ideas that come out of the legislature, obviously, but it's a lot easier for a 1 to lead than it is a 132. And so part of my role is to say, on education, here's where I think we need to go. And I realize there's times only the governor can do that. On designing a budget, budgets are hard to put together by committee, and so the governor needs to take the lead. So again, those things that felt like this is what the governor's supposed to do.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue. This is Governor Bill Haslam, the exit interview. Be back with more in a moment.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
Part of that, comes back to the reason I ran before. I mean, I don't use the word calling lightly, but I think we all need to realize we're called to where we are. I mean, I just firmly believe that.
I was looking back, and we've done 3 major interviews with you in the
We still look the same, right?
You look the same.
Yeah.
I have been afflicted by the puffiness, but that's another episode. We did one at the governor's mansion.
Yeah,
we did one when you were mayor of Knoxville. So I've been kind of able to sit back as a friend and a constituent and kind of watch you grow. One of the things that I always loved about you and love about you is the enthusiasm you have for the job, especially in politics. All the years I've known you, you've used the word tough, but then you've always said, I love my job.
Yeah.
When you were mayor of Knoxville, you're like, I love my job. What is that?
The best answer I give is, honestly, I loved being mayor of Knoxville. I remember at the time when I ran for governor thinking, I can't imagine I'd like it more than I do this, but I've actually loved it too. I think part of it's the chance to make a difference. I think part of what God puts in all of us as humans is this desire to make a difference. And I found myself in these roles and thought, this fits, and I can make a big difference. And so that's part one. I think part two is, I think people want to see their elected leaders liking and appreciating the chance to do what they do. And is this job fun all the time? No, but I think it's important that people see that you're going to bring a hopeful perspective to it instead of a fearful one. Particularly today. I mean, like I do, we live in a country that's become more fearful, and people find a lot of things to worry about, that our country's going the wrong way, and people feel that no matter where they're from on the political spectrum. But I think at the end of the day, people really do want hope. They respond to fear. Fear works. You can say, if you don't elect me, this is going to happen. But I think people respond in a better way to hope. And that just always has felt like a better way to govern to me.
So then, how do you fuel your hope?
Yeah. Like,
in order to project hope, you got to be full of hope.
So part of that, comes back to the reason I ran before. I mean, I don't use the word calling lightly, but I think we all need to realize we're called to where we are. I mean, I just firmly believe that. So if you're called, then you should think, well, I'm called here for a reason, and there's some hope beyond that. I think that's at the foundation. The second piece is, I tend to get really excited about solving problems. Somebody says, downtown Knoxville is, not the center of the city anymore. This is, 15, 16, 17 years ago, and thought, well, we could change that, and downtown could kind of become everybody's neighborhood. And so instead of rather being from South Knoxville or North, East, West, whatever, it's like, that could be everybody's neighborhood. So that picture kind of fired me up and thought, what can we do to make that really happen? Done that. I've kind of put my major focus on education as governor, but again, because I think it's the one ticket that can change things. We have no matter what your politics are, we have an income inequality issue in our country. We just do. I mean, that's what the math tells you. So what are we going to do about it? And I think the best answer is going to be having equal opportunity for great public education all the way from K through post-secondary.
Ray Dalio, in his new book, Principles, he talks about that very thing, that anytime you have ideas, you're going to have problems.
Right.
But your mindset about problems is the determining factor. And he said, great leaders, they get turned on, they get jazzed up by problems for 2 reasons. Number one, the adventure. Yeah. Like if we go to the moon, we've got to solve for communicating with something 200,000 miles away. So you pick up so many things just by reaching or trying to solve. But number 2, there's so much wisdom that comes from solving problems, right? So once you've done it, you know that it's possible. Where do you think you got the problem-solving mindset to? Because you said, I get fired up thinking about taking on challenges or solving problems.
You know, I probably would give most of the credit to my dad. My dad is literally one of the most optimistic people I know, and not just blind optimism, but just this sense of, hey, we can make a difference here. And we can go around complaining, or we can try to make a difference. And so I just, you know, they say things are better caught rather than taught, and I think I just hopefully caught a lot of that from him. That's number one. But number two, I'd say it's part of it is doing that and having that experience. Your comparison to going to the moon is a great one, because doing hard stuff is hard, right? And there was a lot of failure and mishaps along the way, and some people lost their lives. But we still ultimately got there, and we learned through the process every step of the way. And there's been some things I've failed at as governor and as mayor too, and people are like, gosh, you know, you lost on that. It's well, I don't know that I look at it that way. I look at it as we tried to do something that we thought was right. It was hard, and it didn't work out. I'd do the same thing again.
So when you look back over your tenure as governor, and you focused on the things that only the governor can do, I know your faith. So if I say to you, what are you proud of?
Right.
That doesn't ring true with you. But what are you grateful that you accomplished?
I think there'll be two or three things that stand out. I mean, we'll kind of forever be known for Tennessee Promise, the first state to have 2 years free of community college or technical school. And I just think that's such a big deal, because in today's world, more people need training beyond high school. Not everybody has to go to 4-year school, but a lot more of us need that kind of training. And so that's a leveler. I mean, so many people in Tennessee say, well, our family, we don't go to college. We're not college people. But now they said, hey, free, free, maybe we are. And we've gotten their attention. I think the second thing, we've made dramatic improvements in K-12 education. That's been at a cost. It's not always easy, but we went from being a state in the 40s when you ranked states 1 to 50 to somewhere in the upper 20s, low 30s. You know, we went from the bottom of the pack to the middle pack. Still a long way to go, but again, for a lot of students, that's going to mean changing the trajectory of the rest of their life.
Where'd the idea for Tennessee Promise come?
Well, it's interesting. It's just to show that, you know, most good ideas are stolen. You know, here in Knoxville, we had something called Knox Achieves, and Mike Ragsdale and Tim Williams and Randy Boyd and a group got together, and just to show you what a visionary I am, I thought it was a bad idea. The idea was like, what if we raised money, we told every graduate of a Knox County high school, you can go to 2 years of community college free. And I thought, that's stupid. I mean, we're working on other stuff. Don't distract us. But I kind of, after long, thought, well, I'll be a team player and go along. And then I got in the middle of it. I thought, wow, this is a game-changing idea. And so once we did that, then Randy Boyd and some others started talking with me like, what if we did this all across the state? Could we do it? And we went to work doing it. And we realized we couldn't do it forever on private philanthropy dollars. Those would eventually give out. So we had to have the state become a player. And with the help of a lot of others, we figured out how to do that.
Economic development, bringing jobs to the state of Tennessee. On the date that we're taping this, the unemployment rate has dipped below 4% in the U.S. to, I think, 3.9.
Right.
But the state of Tennessee, and in certain counties in particular, we've been down to 3.8, maybe 3.6.
No, we actually hit 3.0, and today we're at about 3.2 statewide.
So we've been kind of leading the country on that. Just talk for a minute about how you focused on employment and job growth, because as a business leader, you're able to sit down at the table with business owners and say, look, I'm not asking you to make an emotional play or a feel-good play. Doing business in Tennessee is good business.
Yeah, I think that was an advantage I had. I'd been part of a business that began here and grew, and I could say, you know, nothing sells like personal testimony, right? When you can say, hey, I use this product, and I could tell the story of that. So that helped, number one. Number two, you know, as much as I'd like to say we've had this winsome, great governor who sold everybody, we also have the blessing of God put us in a really good spot on the map. You know, we can, if you want to be in a distribution, logistics, manufacturing business, we're in a good spot. Number three, we figured out this whole thing, it was about workforce development quick. And so when companies that wouldn't have considered us 10 years ago, they see things like Tennessee Promise and the fastest improving school system in the country in K-12, and now I think, well, maybe they can train our workers. And one of the examples I use in the we've always been strong in automobile manufacturing. People have trusted us to build their cars, but now we're getting some of their research and development. They're trusting us to design their cars and not just build them. And hopefully that's the big next step.
Let's take a break. My guest is Bill Haslam. He is the senior pastor of the state of Tennessee. More in a moment.
Coming up.
They always talk about being governor, president, what you have a bully pulpit, and because you have this position that you can use. But I've always looked at it as you have a pulpit, period.
I want to compliment you on something. You have become a really fine communicator. Before you ran for mayor, we used to talk about that, and you've become a really good communicator. The way you express yourself, the pacing, everything is really good.
Yeah. Well, I've learned from people. You learn from being around folks like you who do this for a living, and I watch how, whether it's on the radio or on a show like this, or when you're, speaking in front of a crowd, you watch people who connect, and you try to think, how do I do that? And some of it's just doing it right. I mean, it's like you could go do a radio show literally in your sleep, probably, because you've done it so much. So you talk a lot as governor. But a lot of it is, they always talk about being governor, president, what you have a bully pulpit, and because you have this position that you can use. But I've always looked at it as you have a pulpit, period,
right.
That a lot of people don't have, and so it'd be irresponsible not to take advantage of that and talk about the things that you think are important.
What's the most important meeting you have every week?
The most important meeting I have every week is the one that hopefully I do when I turn off when I get up when my alarm goes off and I actually go spend some time by myself praying and reading.
What is that like?
Well, I'd love to tell you that I'm as disciplined as I'd like to be. Sometimes I lay in bed for 10 more minutes and it's it's 20 minutes instead of 30. But for me, it really is about back to remembering why I'm doing this. That I do believe that the God of the universe called me to play this role, not because, by the way, he thinks that I'd be the world's greatest governor, but for whatever reason, in his own purpose, he decided that's what I'd do. And I've loved having the opportunity. So part of it's this idea of I don't want to waste this. If I'm caught up in my own selfish things, then I could easily miss what I'm supposed to be doing. And every time I do that, it's not so much, oh man, what you were doing that was off target. It's you missed the chance to be a part of something bigger that God was up to.
It's funny, Jesus worked about 36 miracles.
Yeah.
But Jesus was praying in a certain place, and one of his disciples saw him and said, teach us to pray.
Yeah.
He noticed a connection because you watched him walk on water, heal the sick, raise people from the dead. And he would go off in the morning. And what struck me was that the prelude to transformational power is a personal, private prayer life.
Well, I mean, you read I know we didn't mean to turn this into a Sunday school lesson, but you read in Mark 1, and Jesus first starts doing miracles, and of course the crowds all come to him, and his response is to get up early, go off by himself. And I think it's just a good reminder. The other important meeting I have is not actually with governor staff, although we do that every meet, but once a week whether I was living here or whether I'm in Nashville, I have a group of guys that I meet with that are incredibly helpful. And I know you get the concept in terms of not just personal accountability, but a reminder of who we are.
Yeah, relationships matter. I think you said if you get the relationships right.
Yeah, most other things tend to work out.
As we close part one of our exit interview, I want to begin a conversation about family.
Okay.
Let's start with the First Lady
of
the state of Tennessee. The love that you guys share is incredible. How long have you guys been married?
We've been married, it'll be 37 years this summer. And here's the thing about Chrissy is, when I married her, one of the things I knew was true. Chrissy literally, people say this, but Chrissy literally would be fine no matter what we were doing. If I was, the CEO of the biggest company in the U.S. and living in New York, she'd be great. If we were living on a small farm, outside of Coreyton, she would be great. And I think that's one of the things that I think is so appealing about her is she has come into this role of being the First Lady, and she's just hit it out of the park. And I think she's this sense of, all right, well, here's the circumstance I've given now. How do I adjust, and how do I use the gifts I have? And one of the fun things for me about that is when the people who went to college with us, all of them would remember Chrissy. Nobody would remember me because she was a really big deal on campus, and I wasn't. And it's been fun for me to have her be in this role and be able to use some of the gifts that she just hadn't gotten to use as much because she spent so much time, raising our kids.
How has she inspired you?
Here's the thing about Chrissy. Some people find it easy to bend or fudge the truth, and she doesn't. She is just a really truthful person, and not in the sense of I'm going to be a truth teller and tell everybody here's how the world works. In terms of personally, and it offends her when she hears people not being totally truthful, and she would not be that way. And so it's, in a world that we live in politics where sometimes it's about the perception and not the reality, it's just really refreshing to be around somebody that, no, it's about the reality, not the perception.
Wow. Let's take a break. Coming up next episode is part 2. I want to continue the conversation about family as we kind of land the plane. Bill Haslam. More next time on Anything is Possible.